So yesterday, Brett Veach, the Chiefs GM, spoke to the media, had a 40-minute interview. And what I did is the work for you so you wouldn't have to. I listened to that entire 40 minutes and took notes. Hopefully I'll be able to give this to you in about 8 minutes to save you some time. But there was a lot of good stuff in there. So I cannot wait to share that with you all. But first, how about those? All right, so we're going to dive right in. Just so you know, in the description below, I am posting a link to the full video if you would like to see it. I do apologize because I'm going to be referring to a lot of notes off screen, but we'll do our best here. So here we go. Veach started off by thanking the great, unbelievable fan base, Chiefs Kingdom. Me, you know how it goes. This is what he said. They've been through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with us. He feels a tremendous amount of disappointment not being able to have the fans experience another Super Bowl. Hey, we're disappointed with you, man. He then thanked the coaching staff for their hard work, especially amidst all the COVID protocol over the past couple of years. He was immediately asked, basically, about Tyrann Mathieu and Orlando Jones's status in the grand scheme of things. They will certainly be at the top of the list of things we have to go through. He talked grand scheme, what to work out, salary cap, being limited by COVID, adjusting accordingly, etc. He wants to see what the salary cap is going to be next year. He did have a chance to talk with Tyrann and his agent at the beginning of the season, and they got to the point where they wanted to look and see how things were at the end of the season. He said he'd like him to stay around, that he loves Tyrann. He's a great leader. We will see how that ends up going. We all know Tyrann isn't super positive about it all working out. He's been tweeting on Twitter. He just tweeted yesterday. I'll put the tweet up right now, but about something to do with the business side of things needing to change. Veach then reiterated Tyrann and Orlando Brown will be at the forefront of these conversations. He seemed pretty positive about where the offense is at even for next year. He mentioned the defense needing some focus, but that they for sure will prioritize the offensive and defensive lines basically always. He likes to have depth, well, and for good reason, based on the Super Bowl loss against the Bucs. And the defensive line is one of the first things they will look at. I also think it's worth noting they really need another solid receiver option. Hopefully they are looking into that as well. Yeah, and shout out to Veach for the work he did to bulldoze the offensive line last year and successfully rebuild it. He did a great job. Our O-line was in great shape. You know, even in the AFC Championship game, pretty healthy, lots of depth. So that was great. He fixed that issue from the year prior. What kind of priority is it for you to get Melvin Ingram back next year? A reporter asked. There's been mutual interest, Veach says, and they had a chance to get him in when Jones and Frank Clark were going through their injuries. They stayed aggressive in their pursuit of Ingram throughout the season and were thankful to have him here. He thinks Melvin will want to take his time making a decision. He will go through a process of taking that time, discussing with his family to see what's best for him. He does think, though, that the Chiefs will be at the top of his list if he wants to come back. And if that's the case, Veach said they'd love to keep the lines of communication open with him on a return. Next, a reporter asked, do you feel like there was something missing from this year's team that you did have the last couple of years? Veach responded saying early on when they were 3-4, he could have listed 10 different things, but they were able to right the ship throughout the season. He was grateful to have such leadership in the coaching and in Tyrann and Mahomes in the locker room during that time as well. He mentioned a time after the Chiefs got blasted by the Tennessee Titans that he was up with Andy Reid until 2 or 3 a.m. talking through things, and they really did have the ultimate belief that they would be able to fight through and work through the adversity. And he didn't want to pinpoint anything specific as to problem areas of this year's team compared to the last couple years. Do you guys have thoughts on that? Anything stand out as missing from this year's team compared to the last couple of years? Let me know in the comments down below. He talked about the Bengals game a bit more and ended by saying it was a bad day to have a bad day. He discussed the lack of execution in the second half and said that one will sit with us for a long time. A reporter then asked, how much of a priority is a third receiving weapon for you guys in the offseason? Quote, if there's any way we can get better, any way we can get Pat Mahomes more weapons, we'll do that. I don't think we'll ever shy away from getting even 1% better. We will always pursue talent, and if it makes sense, we will do our best to make it happen. A reporter then asked, is there a time now or future to shift gears on how the personnel and the cap management works, at least regarding the Chiefs? He mentioned Clark Hunt being on top of the cap, one of the best cap guys in the NFL. We have a great group of guys coming back. We have the best QB in the game, and we will be as aggressive as we can be. They will also keep in mind the long-term effects of things, etc. And we know they will obsess over the team's contracts, cap space, etc. and go after positions they feel they best need. Reporter then asked, is Tyrann Mathieu leaving? He's mentioned and hinted this on Twitter. Veach said Tyrann is a passionate person, wears his heart on his sleeve, and is a great leader. He loves playing and living in KC. There is an element of things that are out of his control and also out of the Chiefs' control until we get more info and work through the process. Once we are able to look at the cap and view where we will be in 2023 and other deals and moves, we will certainly exchange ideas and put our best foot forward. He spoke nothing but praise about Tyrann. I do hope they can work something out. He then shifted to Orlando Brown and the value he brought to the team. He's done a great job as our left tackle, and we expect to have him as our left tackle moving forward. So what I got out of that is basically Orlando Brown is coming back. He pretty much guaranteed it. If they can work something out, he will be the left tackle moving forward. But Tyrann Mathieu is still unknown. He was not as confident in his assessment as he was with Orlando Brown. He was then asked, how much does the way this season ends affect your offseason blueprint moving forward? He mentioned the Super Bowl loss was easy to pinpoint the offseason need, the O-line, but he feels confident in the strides they've made, but that they will always prioritize the offensive and defensive line and also getting weapons for Mahomes to work with. He mentioned an extra third-round pick and some draft capital to work with as well. There's a lot of combinations that can play out, a lot of domino effects, current deals, restructures, re-signings, and then filling in the holes with what's available in free agency and the draft. He was asked about his confidence level about a contract extension versus a franchise tag on Orlando Brown. He said this, everything Orlando wanted from his experience, I'd venture to say it's been exactly what he's wanted. When you have a scenario where a player loves the team and the team loves the player, things are always more likely to work out for the better. He was then asked, can you give us thoughts on the Chiefs and the salary cap? So he basically said this. He thinks the cap will increase a bit less than expected. This is quote, my gut tells me it'll be much more gradual, and we will also have to utilize that in our equation on how we approach this in the offseason. He was then asked, you've watched more tape on Mahomes than probably anyone. Can you go over the arc of his season as you saw it? He basically said this, the arc of a player's season is going to arc the direction of the team in general. He talked about the offense's early struggles and Mahomes learning to be patient and adjust to the too high safety look. He noted how much passion Mahomes has and how much he wants to execute. He said his first year in the league under Alex Smith was a big learning lesson for him. Quote, Alex taught him to balance the game, end quote. Mahomes is a perfectionist, Veach said, and he mentioned that he's going to visit this offseason and work on every single facet of his game on how to get better and improve. He was asked about the cornerback situation with Charvarius Ward heading into free agency. His answer was interesting. He said he's loved to see Ward's growth over the years and pretty much right away complimented several of the others. I think there's some misconceptions about not valuing the corner position. You have the O-line, the D-line, their performance, then you look at the corners. At least this is Veach's mindset. There are so many factors that come into play. We will certainly look to add. It's just difficult with the cap space to make it all work out. So I noted this. I found his answer interesting because he was specifically asked about Charvarius Ward, and he talked about him for maybe like a sentence and a half and then moved on to the other corners and just complimented them as well, then mentioned draft and free agency. So I do think Ward should stay around. He's a great corner. I just am not sure if they're going to be able to afford him. Hopefully that was like 8 to 10 minutes. I'm not sure where it will land, but hey, I hope you enjoyed the summary of Veach's press conference to the media yesterday. What are your thoughts on it? Anything worth mentioning or noting? Feel free to comment down below and let me know. If you like content like this, make sure to like and subscribe for more. I'm posting daily content about the Kansas City Chiefs as often as I can. So until next time, let's go. How about those